This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 169, recorded on May 29th, 2014. Here at Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite gadgets that find their way into your home, news, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in a beautiful and sunny Bellevue, Nebraska. And, of course, we post the show with world-class show notes, only because the guests do awesome show notes, by the way, out at the AverageGuy.tv. If you have questions, comments, or contributions, you can contact the show. Send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. Track me down on Twitter @jcollison. And now call in those questions, and got a few of those. Hopefully you listened to the end of the program last week. We had a nice caller call in and give some feedback on some fitness tech stuff. And you can call those in 402-478-8450, and we'll play those here on the show. And I might even build a show around it. You never know if you're asking those questions. And now the Home Gadget Geeks is a part of the Geeks Network. Find this show and many other great podcasts out at thegeeksnetwork.com, and join us in chat, watch, and listen to the live show. Find all the navigation in the upper right-hand corner out at theaverageguy.tv. All right, well, we got we talk about Home Gadget Geeks, and I've been kind of dying to do some car tech. And so I'm going to justify this show by saying you park your car in the garage that's technically in the house, which is a Home Gadget Geek. So we're going to bring that up, and I got two guys that I know are into their vehicles. Obviously, I'm not. I drive an 06 Honda Civic Hybrid, probably the worst vehicle ever, for any kind of actual anything. So
BYOB, bring your own battery.
Yeah, exactly. I've already had the batteries replaced once. It's also the Bill show. It's and we won't say what that works out to if you just go with the initials. So if we're going to say Bill, and Jim, and both of you guys have been on before, Bill Pullman, Bill Rockford, thanks for coming out and being a part of what we're doing here.
Well, thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, let's dive right in. And we had a heated discussion. Not really heated. Bill, you and I were having a good conversation before Bill joined us in there. But I want to talk about automated vehicles because, of course, those are coming, I think, automated vehicles in some form or fashion are coming to a garage near you. Maybe not necessarily where people will own them, but you'll have some ability to rent them, or they may take over taxi services and some of those kinds of things. It's interesting what's coming up, and so let's talk a little bit about that. So Bill Pullman, I'm going to go with you first because we had the other discussion, but I want to see, where do you land in the automated cars? Do you what do you think about those and what's coming up?
It's tough to say, honestly, because when you put something autonomous like that into production on real world, it needs to make a decision. Okay, well, there's something jumping in front of me. Am I going to kill me, or am I going to kill the person next to me? Something like that. I got to swerve out of the way. I think it's great. For my business, it's very bad. But
are you saying it's bad because you think it's going to be safer, and so you're going to have less accidents?
I would think that's the case. I would think they're much more conservative. But the first time that someone gets run over by one of these, everyone's going to be like, wigging out. So I think we're way far away before that happens. There's a lot of companies now that are keeping them under 25 miles an hour. There's a reason for that, legislation-wise, that they don't have to report them as, X, Y, and Z. So they can even test them under a certain speed. But even then, it's up to the coder to make the logic for the car to run.
Bill Rockford, I know you're not a big fan of them, but what don't you like, and why do you think they're ways out?
Well, a lot of different reasons. You have, in fact, basically these things are robots, and I haven't seen a robot that really works well yet, and that's even in controlled environments. And then you have the fact that as he said, you got machines trying to make decisions that humans make intuitively. And are they going to make the decision not to run over the kid that's running in front of the car and wrap the car around a tree, killing me?
But what if they could predict that and avoid both situations?
Well, we can't predict it, and we're more intuitive than a computer is.
But not so. Computers are really good, right, at repetitive, quick. What's the word I'm looking for? Where it's yes and no.
Binary.
Yeah, binary decisions, right? And so maybe the technology is not there today, but if really seeing what's out ahead of you is just really a yes or no decision, is there something there or is there not? And if the field of vision is wide enough that it can catch a kid running into the street, I mean, don't you think we could get to that point where 99.9% of those things could be?
Yeah, you're going to have the 99.9%. But the thing is, it's going to be that 1/10% that's going to make the news. I mean, but it's just like the car on the ignition problem with GM. 13 people died.
Yeah.
Out of how many cars that were on the road? Just out of Cobalts. There were millions of those cars on the road. Mm-hmm. 13 people died. I'm not trying to belittle the 13 people died, but as pure statistic, that is a very, very, very small number, and that's what people are going to see on the news, and that's what's going to get people irate and upset, is that teeny little percentage.
Yeah.
And then you have, what's these things going to cost? What's the price tag going to be?
Well, that's true.
And then who's going to be liable for the insurance? Am I liable for the insurance because it's my car? Is the manufacturer of the car the one that's going to be liable because it's the one making the decisions, not me?
Yeah, no, I think we've got a lot of things to think about before we let these.
I mean, you remember the uproar over Toyota's unintended acceleration?
Yeah. No,
and that was a much simpler system than what we're talking about.
Well, but things got fixed, right? I mean, do
we really know that?
Well, airbags have killed people, right? And so they fixed those. Those are safety devices they didn't yank out of the vehicles. You know. So do we get the benefit of the doubt and these things get better as we learn more about them? And I think, I mean, I don't disagree with you. You have very valid points there. Is that I think automation comes to cars slowly, right? And not like one day you have it and then, or you don't have it and the next day you do. I mean, already, right? We're seeing a lot.
Yeah, we are seeing it. You already got cars that watch in front of them, brake automatically, lane departure systems, all those kinds of technologies, and what we were talking about before the show is this making dumber drivers? Are you going to have people that are going to be so dependent on the tech that they're not going to know how to drive when the tech doesn't work?
Well, and I think that's a valid point. Although driving cars is easier today than it was when my father was driving cars, right? There's a lot more tech that makes it easier for me to drive, and I think I'm still a better driver. I mean, I still think I'm okay today. I don't have to do all the manually shifting and all the things that I had to do. That maybe older cars think about the early version of cars. So do we adapt to that? I get your point. One of the things you'd mentioned was what happens when the system breaks down or the computer stopped working correctly, or it can't see the road, right? Situations. I've driven through some storms here in the Midwest, or even good drivers, human drivers, can't see the road or make good decisions. And what does it do? And if it turns it over to a driver who's not a very good driver, although that can happen. I mean, there's plenty of not very good drivers today that are getting driver's licenses.
Yeah, this is true. But the thing is, at least that it's not being suddenly thrown in their lap. They're not being good drivers the entire time. Right. They're at least aware, and they have their at least what little senses they have already focused on driving. Where I'm driving along, reading my book, and then the thing starts dinging, saying it's done. It's not going to drive anymore. I have to throw the book down, grab the steering wheel, and okay, what am I doing and where am I and what's going on? Because I haven't been paying attention. I've been reading the book.
We have that now, though. be honest with you, there where I live, they're first generation drivers and they're 45 years old, fresh over from certain countries. They don't know, there was one that she was chased 7 miles. She didn't have her lights on, didn't know how to use it. That she went over the median on a major highway, turned around, went back home, and hid in her bedroom until the cops got her because she just didn't know what she eluded police officers. She didn't know how to work her car. So there are people that really shouldn't be driving that I'd rather have in these cars, but at the same token, I really don't want to lose that human aspect of it as well.
Well, let me ask both of you this, and Bill Rockford, let me put it in your lap. Are you afraid? And I'm not saying in a sense like fear, but is there a concern that these cars will take over to the point where the government would mandate only autonomous cars can be on the road?
Why not? They mandate things left and right.
Yeah, but is that a serious, legitimate concern?
To me, yes, because I think we would lose something. Because if they mandate that only autonomous cars can be on the road, what's going to? I mean, honestly, that's even if it wasn't even my car. I mean, what's going to happen to the classics? The ones that have been painstakingly kept and are enjoyed by people on weekends. And some of these things are pieces of history. It's just like when just a few months ago when the Corvette Museum, when they had the sinkhole. You had people, these are not even people's individuals' cars. These are cars in a museum. And they got, most of them totaled. Mm-hmm. And people were actually honestly upset over the fact that here is some 7 Corvettes that were hallmarks of that car line, and they're gone, and they probably won't be coming back. And people were seriously upset about it.
Yeah, no, certainly. And
if you start saying, well, that all those 57 Chevys and those rat rods and the hot rods and all those things have to go away because the government mandates autonomous only, it's gonna be. Oh, I wonder if it's not gonna be as close as when the NRA shows up when they start saying we're gonna take away your guns. They're gonna be a bunch of irate people saying you're not taking away my car.
Probably worse.
Yeah, probably will.
Worse.
Yeah, I can't. Go ahead, Bill.
No, I'm sorry. We're old enough to remember I don't. It's that old, but it's a Steve Austin movie. The $6 Million Man was in it. And it was a movie where there was no more cars, and he took it out of his barn, he put it together, and there was only like a gallon of gas left in the bottom of each tank at every gas station. He would siphon it out. And I can't remember the name, but it's an oldie but a goodie. And it's just like this.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time believing that here in the United States, anyways, that the government could mandate that, because we hold our cars like we hold our like we hold our guns, right? Which is, is a big. I mean, it's a big deal here in the U.S. And so I don't know if we'd ever get to that point, but certainly, and Bill, you had said 50 years. You thought, it would be 50 years before we'd ever see anything like this. I would agree with that statement that you make. If we talked about, say we ever did get a switchover, I would think it would take about 50 years to have a complete, because it could never be done overnight, right? It could never be done that quick. I think it would take a lot of changes, a lot of legislation. I mean, just think about the things we've talked about here. What about insurance? What about liability? What about cost, right? You can't, if nobody's buying them. I think about the hybrids, right, and how popular they were 5, 6, 7 years ago when I bought mine, and they're not really that cost effective or saved anybody that much money, right? And they were more expensive, and so people didn't buy as many, and they still have not caught on, right? From that standpoint, they're not a really great car to begin with, but. That being said, I mean, don't you think that it would take a long time before anything like that would happen? I think
it's going to take a long time for the technology to truly mature, and it's going to take a long time for the people and the organizations around automotive to come to terms with it.
Yeah. Well, I do see I do see probably autonomous cars coming to the state of California to a place near you to take over some services that that may I think they're gonna I think it's gonna work there. I think in some of the bigger cities they're gonna get the ability to run these things, and it won't be everybody, and you won't be mandated or whatever. These things are running today, and I think Google's going to make that happen. Don't you think? Bill Pullman, don't you think?
Yeah, no, I do. And what you were just saying is, I'm curious on areas where the traffic's so bad, like in the West Coast in California. Would it alleviate that because of people just can't drive? And you back up. There's a study where you back up, you hit your brakes for 30 seconds or a minute, and you have to stop. It backs up for like 2 hours when you see what it does in heavy traffic. So a place like California, maybe that works. I don't know. I just don't want to see it.
Certainly from a human movement standpoint of getting people around, if you can organize the vehicles in a way they can drive themselves in a fashion, I think IBM's shown this, if you can drive those vehicles in a fashion where they're aware of each other and they know the movement and it's planned, you can move a lot of people a lot faster. If you do it that way, right? You leave it up to human intervention. This is an area where humans aren't good, is in traffic. Because why? Right. We're all really selfish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's
I'll give that one.
I've ridden a shoulder for at least 2 miles at doing about 80. If I have to, I'll do what I gotta do.
So it doesn't really work well. Well, I think it's an interesting. I think it's an interesting discussion between the three of us. We're not going to decide what's really going to happen or not. But Bill had put that in the notes, and I wanted. And I'd heard that they had been talking a little bit about that in This Week in Google, and so I thought, oh, that's good timing on this. We haven't. It's hard on a car show to not bring this point up, and it does bring up some very emotional conversation that goes on around it, and it's interesting to hear from the two of you on this, especially because you guys are, you're kind of motorheads, so to speak, and you love your cars and you race them, and of course, taking that away, it's a big deal. Bill,
one other thing I want to bring up. So what's going to happen when people start modifying them too? Because someone's going to dig underneath the hood.
Yeah.
What's going to happen then?
Yeah. What happens when you hack your vehicle so that you can get it to go faster, or
or figure out some way to make it actually drive more aggressively to get you there somehow faster.
Yeah. You just have to root it. That's what I hear.
Well, and the one thing I'll say about government control on this is if our government could have gotten control, they would have gotten control back in the 70s when they implemented the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, and they actually would have put regulators on vehicles, and that never happened. And so if that had happened, I would believe our government could actually pull something like that off. I just don't, while politically I don't have a lot of faith in our government, I also know they can't get a lot of things done anyways. It was, the whole NSA deal was kind of like, are you kidding me? They're still the lowest bidders. So, I don't know. I was doing an interview with somebody who said that's security by obscurity, and I'm like, well, it seems to work here. So, I don't know. I just don't have a lot of faith in that. So, if that would have happened, I would have gone, yeah, maybe they do have the power, but I don't. What I find always interesting is you look at these movies that are in the future, like a Total Recall, and they're driving on magnets, or everybody wants to get rid of the tire, and I don't know what they have against the rubber industry, but it seems like in every future movie there's no tires anymore. You think of Star Wars, right? We were talking about Star Wars earlier, right? Hovercrafts, and it's like, but there's people still driving the cars. So you're like, so you're good enough to build a car that can hover, but you still got to drive it. Yeah. Couldn't you think by then it'd be autonomous at that point? Wouldn't you think, if it's in the future enough that you can hover? Anyways, maybe not. All right, let's talk about some tech with the two of you guys, and I'm Bill, you've got this kind of organized here in the show notes. You start with power systems there. Mm-hmm. And so talk a little bit about, remember, we're kind of an average guy show. There are probably folks who are listening who are as enthusiastic or more about vehicles, and we're going to scratch an itch for those guys tonight. If you don't like cars, you might want to just go ahead and call it a day and go listen to maybe Cyber Frontiers or another podcast at this point. I don't say that too often, but we're going to kind of get in depth on some of the vehicles. What, as I open the hood on my vehicle today, I look at that engine compartment, and that's a lot different than the 67 Dodge Dart that I had when I was in college. Now it was an old car then, by the way. I'm not that old, but it was, that car was manufactured just a year before I was born. But it's I could work on that car. I can't. Bill Rockford, what's going on in the engine area? What kind of tech are we seeing? Maybe even in the last couple of years.
Well, I mean, over the last few years, you've seen a lot of new tech coming into just the classic engine. You've seen starting about 30 years ago when fuel injection was introduced, and moved from there to sequential fuel injection to coil for every single cylinder instead of a single coil for the entire system. The computer control got better. The engines, they've moved the temperatures up, increased the internal engine temperatures to be able to be more better with the greenhouse gases. Engines have just gotten more and more efficient. I mean, I was thinking about the other day, in the last 30 years, just the classic gasoline engine is probably at least 4 times more efficient than it was then. Because if you think about it, a 4-cylinder motor in '84, you probably got 90 horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you get at least 200, and you get double the fuel mileage. Now, it's not as good as everyone wished it would be, but then again, cars have also gotten a whole lot heavier too. Because I mean, average compact car weighed 2,400 pounds, 2,200 pounds 30 years ago. Now you can't find anything under 3,000.
Yeah, and have they gotten heavier because they've gotten safer?
You got safety. You got purely technology. I mean, everyone gets power windows now. Everyone gets air conditioning. Everyone has big fancy stereo systems and sound deadening throughout the car, so it's nice and quiet. You got a lot more steel in the cars to make them safer. They have more crumple zones, and the safety cages, and all this stuff that we have to put into the cars anymore. The airbags and lane departure systems. All this technology that we've put in the car makes the cars heavier. Not to mention the fact that everyone's gone from what the average wheel was 15 inches back in the 80s. Now you're getting 20s.
And what does that mean for I know it gets so for the average guy like me, I have no idea what the difference. I mean, obviously in size, right? But what does that get me to go from a 15-inch or a 13-inch? I mean, I had some old cars when I was back in the 80s when I was first driving. I think we put 13-inch tires on those things.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between 13, 15, 20? Those kinds of things for the average consumer.
Mostly looks.
Okay.
I mean, there may be a little bit of performance there because, I mean, a lower profile tire and generally handles better than a high profile tire.
And also, the patch that the tire actually sits on the ground it's almost 50% larger from a 15 to a 19. And that is the actual part that's actually on the ground at one time. So if you make a tire, the diameter larger, part of that tire is going to be on the ground a lot more. And then you also get the width aspect when you go from a 13 to a 19 or a 20 like my truck is. You get a bigger patch, which is more safe. It pumps out more water, blah, blah, blah. And that's where they get that whole idea. But it also adds rolling resistance.
Mm-hmm. And adds weight, which is a thing that hurts you too.
Mm-hmm.
The heavier it is, and it takes more energy to rotate it.
So in our drive to get lighter, certainly we've gotten lighter materials over the last 30 years, but the cars have still gotten heavier because we still add more to them.
Well, we've gotten some lighter materials, but the thing is, though, to get the corrosion resistance and the safety and crumple zones, the steel is actually thicker and heavier than it used to be. So
the high-strength steel is not so much that it's thicker than the old steel. It's just a different type of steel, and the way they make all the steel, it's hard to explain. But if you can make an egg, so to speak, but it looks like a 2x4, they're making the steel on that 2x4. The high-strength steel is a different a different strength as you go back closer to the driver. So the front might be a 500 high strength steel, but the middle is 700 and the back closer to you is 800. So the steel's thinner, but it's not more dense, but there's a lot more of it to absorb that impact that you come in. Where in the old days you had a frame, a bumper, and whatever got to you, and a steel dashboard. That was it. Now it's a lot, there's a lot more components. They're thinner, but all of them make, as you looked at the Indy 500 the past week, when a car hits something, it dissipates energy by blowing stuff out of the way. And that's the same idea what these cars are using now with the plastic and the high strength steel.
Yeah, there were some pretty spectacular ones.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy because they look more and more spectacular, and yet they've probably never been safer.
Right.
From that because of the dissipation of that. So certainly we've gotten a lot safer. I mean, I don't know what the statistics are if we've actually seen a decrease in road fatalities over the last 25 or 30 years.
I think it's been going down, if I remember correctly. I don't have a specific statistic, but I think it's been on a downswing.
And so as the cars have gotten safer, but we're changing a little bit, right? We sacrifice, we're giving away more weight. They get better miles. So imagine if we had cars that were as light as they were in the 80s with the engines like we have today.
Oh, yeah.
Like super light, those things could probably get some pretty good gas mileage, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah. I mean, if we all were willing to take the performance hit and have those unsafe cars we had back in the 80s, we could have monumentally fuel-efficient cars. I mean, my parents had a 1980 Volkswagen Rabbit diesel. It, in a headwind, couldn't do 55 miles an hour. It had 50 horsepower, diesel engine.
And the washing machine.
Could not have its own way.
And I think I drove it once downhill with a tailwind. I got it to 75. But if you put one of the modern diesel that was that small with that little power today, you probably have easily 100 to 150 mile per gallon vehicle. Now it'd be 0 to 60 and never. And you'd never be able to drive on the freeway at all the speeds we go nowadays. I mean, a highway around here is 70 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Nebraska, 75, 80.
Yes, I mean that's the legal limit, 70 miles an hour. So that car would be completely unsafe on the highway by today's standards. But I mean, you could probably get immensely efficient with that, but it would never survive where it is.
Well, let me ask this, because fuel efficiency, right? Gas is not getting any cheaper.
Nope.
We're catching up to Europe here in the United States. We're catching up to the rest of the world in pricing. And what's, for both of you, and I'll just throw this out, what's reasonable as we look ahead over the next decade? What's a reasonable? I mean, certainly we've hovered in that, the hybrids have been advertising up to 50 miles per gallon in some cases, right? What's reasonable over the next decade or so as far as gas mileage goes? Are we going to continue to just hover in this same spot, or will we see advancements? Bill, you'd mentioned some hybrid systems in here. Not a big fan of my own hybrid that I bought in 06. It's okay. It works out all right. But while the other Bill is working on the dogs, Bill Pullman, any thoughts on miles per gallon increases and stuff?
There is obviously in theory there's a limit for diesel or for gasoline how much you can push per pound.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of getting as much efficiency as you can per gallon of gasoline or propellant. I just don't know. I forget what that is. Is it 70 miles a gallon or 60? If it's like 100% efficient. But nowadays, if you can get a diesel, you can't go wrong. But like we talked about, there's a limit. They're making it harder. Why would I buy a diesel to get better gas mileage when diesel costs more than unleaded?
Mm-hmm.
When they're charging more for a diesel than a regular motor. All these
Diesel's
things.
almost like the hybrid of a decade ago.
Yeah,
Where
a
you,
VW diesel will kill
supercharged.
your hybrid as far as mileage goes.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
If we go from New Jersey to Detroit and back, it would be 57 versus whatever yours might be, but yours is better around the city. Um, it's really tough to say. There's only a theoretical amount of miles per gallon you can get out of each gallon of fuel versus the weight, and that's how much more can you go? I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
There's
Question.
a number out there.
Bill Rockford, you've got some vehicles, some hybrid vehicles kind of listed in our show notes, and I don't know if we're moving into that, but I want certainly is this the future as you look at these? Is this the future of what we're going, and what are the advantages to what's coming up?
Well, I mean, you got some of them that are going to be fuel efficient. One of the ones I've listed on the notes is a Volkswagen. It's still in concept stage, but they're talking 250 miles to the gallon with a hybrid diesel. It's going to be like a 1-liter diesel engine, but the thing is, the car is going to have a $125,000 price tag. So I mean, they're pushing technology, but you're paying for it.
Well, no different than the Tesla, right? When we talk about those vehicles being all and they have some similar challenges, right? They got to push that thing all electrical, and so
Yeah.
you pay for any kind of new technology. You're paying to be on the cutting edge of that. Of course, once that gets into the mainstream, the price seems to the price seems to start working down. But that hybrid diesel concept, so diesel full-time batteries for power, or the other way around?
Again, it's in a concept state, so it's here we have, this is what it is, but they don't, when the concepts, they don't necessarily release all the details on how the system actually works.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got things like the Volt where it's been out and people still don't exactly know all the little tricks that it does. I mean, I read a realization a while back that there's a mechanical linkage that goes between the engine and the wheels when the thing hits 70 miles an hour, because it was more efficient for it to start running mechanically once you get over 70 miles an hour, instead of running off the electric motors. But other than that, it's the gasoline engine that's in it is completely disconnected. It doesn't run anything but a generator that feeds the batteries.
So you're saying once the car reaches 70 miles an hour, switches over to the gas engine?
No, the gas engine's always is running already by the time you get to 70. But there's a mechanical linkage. I mean, when they were first promoting it, they were saying this is an electric car, runs off batteries, but it has an engine that runs a generator that feeds those batteries so you can do 300 miles on it, instead of just the 40 that you will get if you just run it off the battery.
Okay.
But then it became known that, there is this mechanical linkage when it gets over 70 that hooks up and runs the wheels off the motor. It still generates power and feeds the battery, but it does have a mechanical linkage at that point because it's more efficient at that point to have a mechanical link. But as soon as it drops below 70, that disconnects again, you're back running off the electric motors.
Yeah, and I think I'd actually prefer that, to be honest. If I was going to go hybrid again, and I won't, but if I were to go hybrid again, I'd rather be full-time electric, especially as a commuter, right? Because I commute 15 miles to work.
Oh, that's perfect.
Right? I mean, that's for me, my Civic is really a commuter car for the most part. We do take it on some long trips from time to time, but for the most part, it's a commuter car. And so I'd rather have full-time electric on that, and then just use the gas engine when I need it.
You might like the Spark from GM too. It's the Volt miniaturized version, which is completely all electric. And I've only seen Volts at where I work that were all electric. There was not a gas motor in there. It's either you plug it in or you go home. And it was either 120 or 120 or 210 or 220 rather, and at the house. And so if you're going only that distance, it's a no-brainer. It can do 35 miles in a sitting.
But I would have anxiety. Bill put it in the notes there, no range anxiety.
Right,
And
right.
I would. I mean, okay, so I'm crazy enough. My mower is battery powered, right? I've got
Really?
batteries, right? Yeah, that's my mower's battery powered.
Lithium, yeah. Okay.
And it works great. I've had it for 5 or 6 years, but it just degrades over time. I'm barely getting my entire lawn mowed now out of one charge, where before I could probably mow it twice and then 1.5 and then one, and now I really got to stretch it. And if the lawn gets really long, I'm screwed. I've got to do it twice. But that would be a major concern of mine. I watched the batteries in my current hybrid get me about 8 years before 6 years, 6-7 years before they crapped out, and so I'm really hesitant on that concept of, because the battery, I don't know.
Battery technology has always been lagging. I don't know how you guys feel, but battery technology for phones, for anything, is always lagging.
Yeah.
We can make a phone thinner and smaller, but the battery's always the same size. And same thing with cars. I mean, I look at these when we have to pull these batteries out. They're always the same every year after year. They're the same size. They don't get any smaller. Ever.
Bill Rockford, you have a Saab in here. It looks like another proof of concept, but a camless engine. What does that mean, and how does that get it better performance?
Well, okay. This is going to get geeky for you.
Yeah, let's do it.
A 4-stroke internal combustion engine has 4 states in the pistons, the little things that go up and down. There is the intake stroke, which goes down, sucks air and fuel in. A valve opens to let the air and fuel in. When it hits the bottom, a valve closes, and then you have the compression stroke, where it pushes the piston, comes back up, compresses all that air and fuel into a really tight package. Then the spark goes off, it burns and pushes the piston back down. That's the power stroke. Then you have the piston from rotational mass get pushed back up. But a valve opens, the exhaust valve, and that lets the exhaust gases go out of the engine. Now, an engine is only truly its most efficient at 1 RPM rate. It will be less efficient before that, it'll be less efficient after that. It's only truly most efficient at one point, because the cam can only open and close the valves in one curve, because it has a little lobe that's kind of shaped like an egg, and that little lobe pushes the valve open. Now, a camless car, and it's currently being used in Formula One too. They don't have a mechanical connection.
Rod that opens that right?
They don't have a mechanical connection that's tied to the crankshaft or any other part inside the engine to the valves. So they have a computer running, and they can open those valves and close them anytime they want.
That makes sense.
So that way they can have that valve opening and closing when it's efficient at 1,000 RPMs, and then they can change the timing so that it's efficient at 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000.
Right, so it's like a variable cam, basically, what they're doing.
I mean, Honda has variable cams, but again, they only have 2 states.
Right.
So they're only truly efficient at 2 places in the RPM range. This thing would be efficient at any point in the RPM range. And then the top that off is that's if you're just cruising. If you put your foot in it, it can change, and suddenly it can be able to make the most power at any point in the RPM range. So not only can you get efficient, you can get more power out of the engine at the same time.
While being efficient?
Well, it'll be efficient when you're trying to be efficient, when you got your foot out of the gas.
Okay.
But when you put your foot to the floor, it changes state. It starts trying to produce as much power as it can at all the range to the RPM. So then you have all the power it is capable of making.
God, it makes me miss the rotary engine.
And something else I learned that they're talking about, that the thing could run on anything. It could run on gasoline. It could run on jet fuel. It could run on diesel.
Now, why would that change? So taking out the cam, why does that change the fuel?
Because the way the fuels work, because they would be able to control when the thing sparks, when the spark plug goes off, and when the valves open and close.
Mm-hmm.
The different variations on how the fuels burn differently.
Oh, I got you. So it's adjusting to the fuel as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It's
How
making
did they
fuel adjustments.
change? Sorry. How did they change then? Obviously, we know a diesel engine takes almost twice as much compression to ignite. How did
Well,
they,
you'd still have the spark plug. You'd still have a spark plug in there. I don't know the details on how they were saying that diesel would work.
still pretty
I was
cool.
reading an article and they said you could even make this thing run on diesel.
Right. It's a fantastic idea. I think get rid of
They
that.
said they could even make it run as a 2-cycle engine.
That's the first time I've seen this. This is awesome.
Maybe adjustable piston, right? Pressure. You think as well. It's got the ability to adjust to increase the pressure.
Why not? Why not?
If you're taking some of those mechanical components out and you're running those mechanics on the fly or dynamically, right? And as long as the engine stays in sync with itself, right? You wouldn't want to start getting those out of.
Yeah, the software had hiccup. You might have some serious problems.
You wouldn't want to see a blue screen of death at
Right in the middle, doing 100 miles an hour down a backstretch that had a Windows update. All fucked everything up.
Is it okay to reboot?
Blue screen.
Oh my God.
My injector's just blue screen. I have a problem. But it's some interesting technology
That
they're
is
coming out with,
interesting.
and Formula One's already running this using a air-based pneumatic drive to run the valves. But they're doing it because they spin these motors to 20,000 RPMs, which is extremely fast. A mechanical system wouldn't be able to keep up. That's why they went to a pneumatic system. These guys, they're not trying to necessarily raise the RPM range. They just want to have all the flexibility that it provide them. And they're playing around with pneumatic. They're also playing around with electromechanical. So basically like little servos.
Yeah, but it really helped though the RPMs, like you were saying. Not having that cam and that overhead. Obviously when an engine fails, it really fails. But not to having that extra top end to fail on you. That's really interesting.
Well, and imagine too, think about, you throw the Nest concept at the car, and imagine it begins to keep track of itself, and when it's getting the best gas mileage under certain conditions, and begins to self-adjust based on the environment, the temperature,
they already do.
Oh, well, there you go.
I mean, they already they may not be adjusting the valving, but they are adjusting how much fuel they feed into the engine. They already have the butterflies, the little valve on the front of your engine that lets the air in. That's now electrically controlled. When you press your foot down, you don't have a cable going to that anymore.
Nope.
You're running a little sensor that tells the computer, I want to go faster. It opens the blades and lets more air in.
Yeah, and even the turbos now are mechanically, the computer will turn the blade of that turbo to make it more steep or more flat, depending on the situation, to reduce turbo lag. Same idea. The computer is doing a lot more instead of just all mechanical.
Of course, when you're talking about turbo lag, you got other cars like the new McLaren P1, where they're using the hybrid system to get around turbo lag.
Why not? A lot of torque.
So, I mean, they're producing more performance out of the car using the hybrid system.
Well, and that's I think that's how my Civic works, is that it runs on gas full time, and when it wants power, it engages the electric engine, which has got good torque and is really maximizing the electric for what it's good at, which is quick acceleration, and then turns that off in the cruise mode, which is probably what the gas engine is better at, is just maintaining a speed. Is that right or is that wrong? I'm just a layman at this point.
No.
Well, that's pretty much right, except with the McLaren, they have a 750 horsepower engine with its absolute massive turbo on it, but it has what's called turbo lag, where you're running at low RPMs, you put your foot to the floor, it takes a while for that turbo to spin up to really produce power. So you have this period where the engine doesn't really want to make the car go faster. That's when they're kicking a 150 horsepower electric engine in to push the car along faster at those when the turbo can't produce power until the turbo kicks in.
Right.
Then they pull the electric motor out and let the Oh, turbo keep kicking you forward.
Because the turbo needs the exhaust gases to turn the turbo. So until you get those gases going on the exhaust side, you're going to have what's called that turbo lag. But
the only way around turbo lag is to create small little turbos.
And if you want to cheat in racing, like everyone does, you actually put a electric motor in for restarts, and you actually want that to turn the drive shaft or in the transmission and hide it there. Even if it's only got enough power for 3 seconds, it will keep a normally aspirated motor. It will get that up to speed and help it enough that once you can change the gear ratio. There's a lot of things that when you're trying to cheat electricity, you can hide pretty good.
Let me ask both of you as we move into a current. We've got some cars. We have some legitimate full electric cars at this point. I mean, I would say 5 or 6 or 7 years ago they weren't legitimate. I think they're legitimate now. You guys might have differing opinions, but Bill Rockford, let me ask you, from a straight electric car, one, would you buy one, and two, which one would you buy? Maybe not today, but one that you're looking at for the future.
I actually would love you asking this question. There's one, I'll never afford it. I'll never be able to pay for it. Mercedes-Benz has an electric car that is really intriguing. It's basically all-wheel drive. It's got an electric motor in each wheel. And they've taken the drive system to a whole new level, where what they actually do is they adjust the power on each individual wheel as you're going through the corner of a turn. And they'll actually reverse the power on one of the wheels as you're going through the turn, and it'll actually make the car turn better. So they actually kind of apply brakes to one wheel as you're going through, and they increase the power to all the other three, and it makes the car just cut through a turn like you wouldn't believe.
In a normal performance, like in the average person making a turn, it makes a difference.
It'd be more of if you're taking it out onto a racetrack and flogging it for fun.
Okay, so more.
So you're asking what I drive to work every day? Probably never, but
is the Mercedes, is this the SLS?
Yes, the SL-AMG electric.
Okay.
And Jim, if you ever see someone in a cutting the lawn, like at your corporation, where they have the two sticks, and at one time you watch them turn this one back, and they're pulling that motor back because each wheel is driven by a separate motor. That's what he's referring to: full control of everything, not just traction control, but assisting you in steering as well.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of using braking as a steering mechanism, right?
It's all running through the electric motors.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So you don't actually have to hit brakes. You just feed some power back into the motor in a reverse state, which makes that motor slow that wheel down.
Yeah.
While the other ones go faster, and it will drag you through that corner faster than if they were all running at a steady state.
Right. That makes sense. Bill Pullman, let me ask you that question. Electric vehicles for you, would you ever go that route? I know you got a big monster truck, but
no, I really don't. But no, I have just a normal 1500 truck now. No, I got rid of diesel. Yeah, I got rid of diesel when I stopped racing. But you know what? I like electric because you hit it, you mash the pedal, and it's there. It's almost like a if you never had the ability to drive a rotary engine. There's no torque curve like on a normal. It's just there. So as soon as you hit it, you're gone. So I do like that aspect, and I am a miser when it comes going back and forth to work. So I've been known to get into like a $400 beater with a 4-cylinder and go back and forth to work for years on end until it dies, and then I get out of the car, take the plates off, and I leave. So I'm all for the the good commuting car. But yeah, I could be in it. I would have 2 cars though. Don't get me wrong. No way I'm going to have just an electric car.
For that range anxiety, or
no, just because I want to go out and waste some gas.
That's
the reason, but not for commuting reasons. Commuting reasons, I'm all for The electric or a hybrid car, I'm all fine. No, I'm
Okay.
fine with that. I'm not worried about plugging in. I'll just pull over and, jack someone's outlet outside, plug in for a couple minutes.
Yeah. Well, I don't. As a nation, I don't think we're infrastructured yet for the
Not
electric
yet.
car, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we're just not there. And some cities are, right? When you
Mhm.
there are cities, San Francisco is being one of them. You can pull in a lot of parking spaces and get priority by having an electric car. You can park in spots of the upfront
Yeah,
spots.
my company I work for has that.
Yeah.
I kept telling them that I was going to take my Camaro race car and convert it to E85 so I could park it in next to the two
Yeah.
Priuses.
And,
We have it too. We have a low emissions area that I park in
mhm.
all the time because it's right close.
And here at there's a university near me. It's Rutgers, and they have an area just for that. And every time I go to the games on the weekends, there's 2 Teslas sitting there, and then 3 or 4 other cars plugged in. It's pretty cool to look at.
Yeah,
So
the recreational center in our hometown has plugins in it at it too.
Bill Rockford, tell me, where again are you from? Where are you located?
I'm living in Dublin, Ohio.
Ohio. Okay. And Bill Pullman, you are in
lovely New Jersey.
lovely New Jersey. Well, at least storms don't roll through there anymore.
No, not anymore. We got rid of them. Forget it.
It's all over with. Garden State, right? Garden State.
Yeah.
Guys, I wanna as we kind of spend the next few minutes, 15, 20 minutes. There's 2 things I want to ask you, so be ready for this. One is when we talk about home gadgets, right? What are the gadgets you're putting in your car? And then 2, I want to talk about your race cars because I know both of you have got some cars that you race or semi-race with or used to race with. And Bill Pullman, don't tell me you don't race anymore because I know that you. Don't tell me that. So Bill Pullman, we'll ask you if you could be racing or what you had before and why. But Bill Rockford, let's start with you. Gadgets to keep, so you're in your commuter car, in your regular full-time car. Gadgets outfitted in there. What do you like, or are you kind of just a plain guy? Don't mess around. I'm just driving.
Mostly I'm just plain driving. I don't even want to answer my phone driving my car. Of course, my car is a manual transmission car. So I'm using both hands, both feet to drive it.
What's your full-time driver?
BMW 128.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean it came with an iPod hookup. Of course, I don't have an iPod, but
you could plug your phone in, right, if you wanted to.
But yeah, I mean I'll plug the phone into the USB jack and charge it. That's about the extent of it.
Not to listen to podcasts. You don't know any.
I don't even turn on. I rarely turn on the radio.
Wow. All right. So you're old school.
I actually want to hear the car. I put a nice throaty exhaust on the thing. I work rolling down the windows and I run up through the gears. I mean I'll drive. I mean. I could be driving down a road that I could be cruising at 2,000 RPMs. No, I'll put it up at 5,000 because I want to hear the engine scream.
Yeah, so you're even racing, not racing, but you're enjoying the performance of your vehicle.
Yeah.
Even
it's a fun little car with a nice suspension on it, and yeah, I don't exceed the speed limit much. But
of course not.
I will. I mean, I rove through the gears, and I will every now and then I will I'll be having the engine screaming up through first and second until I hit the speed limit. So.
Yeah. Well, my father-in-law used to say to me all the time, you kids, you play that radio so loud you can't even hear the engine, and that was a big deal for him. He liked to hear the engine.
I was like that when I was younger too, because I had a little 4-cylinder car that sounded like crap. Now I don't.
What year is that car?
Mine's an 09.
09. Okay, so good. So you like the sound of the engine, and why wouldn't you? Bill Pullman, let me ask you, gadgets in your car?
Everything. My truck, I'm lucky. My truck has air-conditioned seats, heated seats, back seats are heated and air conditioning, sunroof. I have everything you could possibly want. It's got AC, so I can plug in my laptop, all my gadgets. Bluetooth. Basically, when I drive home and from work, I love listening to my 5.7 liter Hemi at 12 miles to the gallon, but I listen to my podcast, so I throw my phone up there, I put on my podcast, and Bluetooth into my nav system and the stereo system there, and then I use Waze all the time, so I don't even use the navigation system in my truck. I use my Nexus 5 and I put Waze on, and I listen to the Average Guy podcast every day.
Yeah, whatever.
I do that at work.
Well, it's good that you can.
Yeah.
That you can do it
It
that
just
way.
unwinds me. Not the sheer podcast, but podcasts in general. It just unwinds me. I have a nice ride from the city to the farmland where I live. So it kind of like just decompresses me from the day. So, and then when I want to get in it, I turn it off and I get on it and I watch out for deer and I get home a lot quicker.
I see. I live in the burbs, but I work in the burbs. So
Right.
it's about 10, 15-minute drive from work, and I don't even leave this. I'm all in the same town.
Yeah.
So
I'm about 45 minutes, so I gotta, it progresses as I go home, to the sticks. So it's nice.
But that one series, I've been amazed with that thing because I'll get 22 to 24 average on the week, and I'll get 32 on the freeway.
Right. The automatic is just, the manual is just so much better. No matter what type of car or engine you have, you still can't beat it. Even variable transmissions can't keep up with a good old clutch and stick.
I'm sorry, Dave, or Jim.
No, that's right.
I called you Dave. Sorry.
Just don't call me Dave.
Well, you've been messing my last name up all night, so I figure that's fair.
Yeah. I did have it right. It's Rockford, isn't it? Hold. I just could have swore I looked on your Google profile.
Nope.
Oh, it is wrong. Why didn't you?
Oh, I didn't. I was trying to be nice.
Oh no, don't be nice. I could. Well, maybe I was thinking of the old '70s Rockford
Files. Yep.
Yeah.
I ever watched that show.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Well, I won't forget it now. So you said Bill Rockhold. There we go. You've got a commute of just a 15-minute commute or so.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not really. From exact.
I used to commute about half an hour around our outer belt, but and that was on a good day. A bad day was 2.5 hours.
There's an outer belt in Ohio.
There's an outer belt around Columbus.
It's a joke. Forget it.
But your commute's shorter, right? So you're just not engaging in there's not a lot of time to necessarily engage. Bill Pullman, you've got 45 minutes. That's a good. You can get through almost a whole podcast in some regards or whatever.
My commute, I'd be lucky to get through 3 songs on the radio.
Yeah, no, right on. So that may influence it kind of as well. I have an 06, just came with an aux, and I've actually installed a little Bluetooth receiver for that aux. And I get in my car, flip on a podcast. I get about 20 minutes, so it takes me a day and a half to get through an hour-long podcast, right, in that, going back and forth. And I get through it. I only get maybe through 3 podcasts a week or so with the commute, but I still find it really helpful. I like Bill Pullman. I'm like you. I like to have those podcasts on. It's my time. I can't listen to them at work. That's the one drawback for me. You'd think I could. There's no way I could listen to a podcast at work. It's just not happening.
That and doing yard work. Cutting where I have to cut. I got a lot to cut. I love listening. I can catch up to 4 or 5 weeks of podcasts. Just having whatever it is, driving whatever. But I just have to have it. I don't listen to music at all. Honestly, I just don't anymore.
Yeah.
I guess there is one piece of tech I do have in the car, and that's a GPS device.
And you use it much?
Not too often, but I've used it. No, I will not use. I will never buy one built-in, and if I ever had one built-in, I would never use it.
Okay.
And I don't, and I have it. I don't use it at all. I use my cell phone. It's up to date. It's much better and more responsive. You're absolutely right.
My little Garmin. It's got lifetime updates on it, so I just update it, and I prefer it over the phone because when I get out in the sticks, in the hills down in Tennessee or something like that, there is no cell phone. There's no data.
Yeah.
And then you're SOL if you don't have something that already has everything preloaded.
You know, we have some family down in northern Kentucky, not too far from you, down there, and right, you're in the Columbus area, is that what you said? Yeah. So, and I'd rented this Chevy Malibu, which, you know, it's got a little turbo and it goes pretty fast. It can go fast, right? And Kentucky roads are awesome, right? I don't know what they're doing, but they're curved just right. You know, they don't cut through mountains. No, was it a cruise? Yeah, Sarah's saying it was a cruise. I think it was a cruise.
Yeah.
So I don't know my cars either. So, so I am just hauling, and it's a Sunday morning, and I'm flying down this hill, and I see there's a semi, and I'm like, I am so gonna slot car this semi, you know. And I had the girls, I had my wife and her sister in the car too, and they were chatting away, blah 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 blah. And I come flying down the hill, and I'm about to slot car this thing, and just as I pull out, I can see the state trooper behind me lights. I'm like, oh, I didn't even try and get out of it. I just pulled over, rolled down the window. He's like, do you know how fast you were going? I'm like, I don't even want to know. Just write the ticket. And I paid $2 something for that, $279, I think. I was going pretty fast. I'm fortunate to not. But the roads down there are awesome. Here's what I said. Here's how I justified it. Make sure Cher's gone. So here's how I justified it. I'm like, well, if I'd have gone to a racetrack and rented a car, because you can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rented a car at a racetrack, I'd have paid about that much, probably, maybe a little bit.
Oh, you paid even more than that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
you'd pay about that if you took your own car.
Okay. So
if you're renting a car, you're gonna pay at least double.
So it was even cheaper for me because I was racing for like an hour. I mean, I was going fast for like an hour, hour and a half, something like that. So I thought, well, that was my fun, racing day and doing that. So I don't know. Speaking of racing, let's make a transition into racing. Bill Rockhold, I know you've got a race car. You were showing some pictures. If you want to throw those up now, I'll lock the screen on here. Tell us a little bit about. This is not now that we know what your commuter car is. This is not your commuter car, but tell us a little bit about your car. How long you've had it, why you bought it, what you do with it. Here, I'll throw you in there. Why you bought it, those kinds of things.
I bought it because I wanted a plaything. I just got to the point where at that time I was single, and I had some extra cash, and I decided I was going to get me a toy to play with. And I started hunting around. Almost bought a Mustang.
Guys, tell us what it is.
This is a Chevy Camaro, a 1992 Chevy Camaro. And I almost bought a Mustang, but then I wised up.
Yeah. What? Yo, man. Fighting words.
You didn't do that.
Not from me. I know there are some listeners out there who are like, you're going to get some angry emails.
Well, that's fine.
No, it's fine.
They take it in. Oh, good jest.
Yeah.
But
when you bought it, it was 10. You said it's a 92.
So yes, 92. It was 8 years old when I bought it. I bought it in 2000.
And in pretty good condition, or did you do some work on it?
It was in decent condition. It hadn't been too badly beat on, and it ended up being something kind of rare. I mean, it wasn't easy to find a third-gen Camaro with a manual transmission, a V8, and no T-tops.
Mm-hmm.
That's a rare piece. So I found this and snapped it up. And
did you have to go far to get it?
Actually, no. It was here. I found it here in town. And then as soon as I bought the car, I bought a house because I needed a garage to work on it in.
Yeah. Did you do much mod to it? Did you modify it much?
In the past, 14 years, about the only thing left on it that is from originally a stock is the transmission. There's been modifications of the body, rear suspension, front suspension, axles, drivetrain, whole new motor I built a few years ago. That was a pretty penny. Interior.
You built the engine? Is that what you said?
I built a whole new one.
A whole new one. Okay.
From the ground up.
Wow. All new components, or do you
all new components.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all new components. It was a probably $7,000 for that motor.
Got a flight.
Yeah, it was built to a rule set, and the rule set didn't let me get too crazy.
That's good. That's always a great thing in racing.
So
You got a few more pictures of that, Bill? You can throw up there.
let's see.
I thought I saw a couple other ones. Just from,
Yeah, I have more. I think I closed that window.
I think we. It's okay if you don't.
I can get to them. It's just a matter of.
We talked top speed, maybe 130 in that thing.
That's what I've all gotten to.
Okay.
It's definitely capable of more than that. That was just how much the straightaway was.
Okay. Yeah. And is there a track nearby that you take it to?
Oh yeah, Mid Ohio sports car course. It's probably definitely one of the top 10 road course racetracks in the country.
It's definitely famous. That Lime Rock, quite a few up in here in the Northeast area. That's one of the better ones.
Yeah, it's. I don't think it's ever sponsored Formula One, but I mean ALMS, IndyCar, NASCAR is even going there now.
Mm-hmm.
But they have still have club racing at it, and then they have open track days, which is what I generally have been doing at Mid Ohio. It's just where you just take your car and you can have a helmet and long sleeve shirt, and you can drive your car out on the racetrack. You have to pay about $350, but
for how long?
Generally it's 4 20-minute sessions.
For $350. Okay.
But they'll generally give you when you start, they'll give you an instructor. Teach you where the line is, where to drive. They help you along, and they generally they just don't throw you out to the sharks. Unfortunately, though, my first time there, they didn't give me an instructor, so I got kind of thrown out to the sharks. Luckily, I had some friends that were there and not running at the same time I was, and they were experienced on the track. They went out with me to teach me and help me get around the track without putting it into the guardrail. But
because that's pretty easy to do.
It can be. I've had some friends that have. I have a friend with a Z06 Corvette that has put it in the guardrail there at Mid Ohio in turn 1. And I've seen the Mustangs and some other cars that have spun and backed in the concrete walls there. It doesn't happen a lot, but it can happen even when you're just doing it for fun.
Yeah, I think we mentioned before. I told you that story about that Mustang, and we backed it into a guardrail on the Autobahn, and we lost some traction on the back end. That is the oddest feeling. You know those tires are spinning forward, and yet you're going backwards in this, and then it did he hit the brakes, and of course that spun the front end around, and we slammed right into the guardrail and took the whole back end out. So that's Have you wrecked your car at all?
Mine, no.
Okay.
I've never wrecked it. I that first day when I was thrown out to the sharks, I did spin it twice.
Oh,
that was interesting, but it really didn't scare me because I'd already been autocrossing for 5 years.
Okay.
And there you're basically running in an open parking lot with just pylon cones. And if you don't spin your car occasionally doing that, you're not driving fast enough.
That's exactly the answer.
So
if you're not spinning out, you're not trying.
Yeah, that's one of the classic sayings about racing. If you haven't wrecked or you haven't made mistakes, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah. All right, Bill Pullman, what did you have? Are you done? You've had some stuff before, right?
No, yeah, I have a Northeast dirt modified. It goes from Canada down to basically Florida on the East Coast. 780 horsepower, big block modified.
Oh yes. So, is there a difference between modified and super modified?
Every class has their own terminology. So my class that's the highest. It's modified. So it's sportsman then modified. So small block, big block, or the modified could run on alcohol with a small block as well. But a small block, you eat that motor up, and it's every twice a year, and it's about 20 grand every year to 20 grand a shot to get it ready for the next time out. So it gets kind of expensive.
Little
where
pricey.
a big block will hold up a little bit better with the RPMs, and you can run it on pump gas, not pump gas obviously, but you can run it on racing fuel and not alcohol. So we do good.
Is that the one with the fin on the top? That
I don't know. That's a sprint car.
Those
I
are
got a picture
sprints.
of it. I don't know how to get
Yeah,
it to you.
throw bring it up in a window and then share
Uh-huh.
your screen. Use the green one with the arrow and the upper left up
I'm
here.
working it. Left. Keep pointing.
Up here.
Plus, minus, share.
Up there, share.
Share, and then it just says public.
Right about there.
Yeah.
Well, no, you want to share your screen. You should see one.
I got two screens. Does that cause me a
screen
problem?
share. Yeah, no, it should grab. It's the second one down. You'll see the.
Yeah,
I have a third one down.
I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here you go. I apologize.
No, you're good.
Newbie, rookie.
Yeah, there we go. Let me.
So that's basically us going into a corner with the rotating weight going on the outside of the vehicle. I don't know how you guys see it. Let me go look. See how you see it.
No.
Yeah. So it's dirt racing. It's pavements to get to the track, and racing's on dirt.
Dirt racing and slick tires, right?
Yeah, I mean they're not slick tires. They're grooved, and we sipe them for heat, just like you would like a winter tire or a snow tire has. They're siped. Same idea. Different siping for different types of traction. But it's fun. It's an oddball car. People from Kentucky and Pennsylvania and Pennsyltucky call it the mud turtle because it looks like that.
Pennsyltucky?
Yeah, that's what we call the people from Pennsylvania. They come in like to beat up on the New York and Canadian, New Jersey racers. So we call them Pennsyltuckians.
Nicely done.
Yes,
I'm sure I'm going to get an email on that one.
It's all in love though. So
of course it is.
Anyway, so that's my car, my rookie year in the modifieds, and then next year my son was born, so that there's a brand new car of that one, looks just like that in a trailer somewhere, never ran. It's just sitting there right now.
Where's the trailer?
At my in-laws, because if it was here I'd be racing because I'm only like 20 minutes away from the track, so
wow.
Just trying to be responsible.
You're holding on to it for future.
It's brand new. It's brand new. It like smells like brand new plastic.
Mm-hmm.
When you open that box up,
sitting in a trailer waiting to be raced.
Just waiting there.
But don't the technologies change enough that if you let it sit too long?
Yes, they absolutely do. It's mostly in the engine. The rules have the front and back axles are solid. There's not a wishbone suspension on these. They're all solid. So the actual geometry on these cars are going to be the same by rule. It's the engine and the center of weight, and a lot of times we'll use like a rubber floor to allow it to flex more. Those type of things will change, but mostly in the technology and the drivetrain will change. Not so much the chassis itself over a 10-year lifespan. A modified big block modified will beat a chassis to death and flex it out within about three seasons. You take it and you throw it away.
It's crazy, guys. I'm gonna admit the money. I mean, it's a hobby, right? I buy computers and setups.
Oh yeah,
and
I mean,
rigs and
where
all
else
that
can you
stuff.
go out and buy and get a $5,000 car and dump another $40,000 into it?
Oops. Yeah. Bill Rockhold, have you done dirt? Have you raced dirt before?
No. No, I've been stuck on asphalt, and what I do is very amateur compared to what he's doing because I'm not running wheel to wheel with other people. It's a time trial thing where it's you against the clock, and then the clock is your clock against somebody else's clock, and whoever turns fastest.
On the track, is it just you then?
Yes.
Okay.
The autocross, it's just me. Open tracking, there's a group of people out there when you're just tracking, having fun, but. In autocross, yeah, it's one car on the course at a time.
And he's the smarter one.
And do you drift at all in any of your stuff, or is it pretty much wheels stay moving?
Well, that's the rub. Yeah, are we intentionally drifting? No. Am I doing it? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So
It's not really drifting as what you've seen video of drifting, people doing full 45-degree slides. It's more of a power drift where you know, and it really that isn't the fastest way. It's just often you get the back end will step out a little bit, especially with my car because I got it set up to be loose. So the back it's set up to have the back end give before the front. And so I'll come out of the corner, get it on the throttle a little too much, and the back end will step out. And I'll slide it, and I'll counter steer and keep in the throttle and wait to either it snaps back or I have to hit the brakes for the next turn. Because, I mean, autocross course, you're probably talking maybe half to 3/4 of a mile long in a very large parking lot because it's all zigzags.
Yeah.
But a turn is coming at you every 2 seconds.
Right. And what's the max you get the car up to speed-wise?
Probably 55, 60.
Fast.
You're generally in second gear and that's it. You start in first, you go to second, you're done.
So Rennie says drifting is stupid anyways.
I won't disagree. It's not real racing, but I will never say that those guys can't drive.
You watch them now,
sure.
put those cars in some ridiculous situations.
Especially
right?
in rally cars, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's a work of art to watch them, because that's the big, I shouldn't say the big deal now, but in some of the drifting videos that I've watched, they spin those cars between things and like inches of space and they don't hit. And I wonder how many times they hit before they got it right. But
I mean, my car can't really drift. I don't have enough, I can't put enough steering into it to truly drift the car.
Yeah.
I've stuffed too much tire underneath the front of it.
Sure. I
mean, the tires on the front of it, each one is 11 inches wide.
And what's funny that you said that is that most people on the outside say, oh, racing, you don't have to be physical, you don't have to do this, but any race car driver of any type of racing respects another type of racing, no matter if it's drag racing or whatever, because we know what goes into it. People on the outside are like, oh, I can go in the car and race. Well, how about this? Let's go with 32 more people at the end of a night when it's hard and tacky, you're doing 115 down the straightaway, you're going into turn 4, and there's 2 people, your worst enemies on either side of you, and let's roll the car a couple times or smash it into the wall at 75 miles an hour. It does take skill, and as a driver, you respect every type of racing, no matter what it is.
I mean, when you're going through a turn and you're pulling 1.2 Gs, going to sideways, that is. It may not sound a whole heck of a lot because it's not like fighter pilots where they're pulling 5, 7, but the thing of having all of gravity pull on the side of you and then add another 20%.
Yeah, that's where weighing less helps. Yeah,
right? But then again, having nice seat that wraps around you, 6-point harnesses, that helps a lot too.
It does, and so you have that, and you got that all set up in your car.
Yeah, I mean. If you're not tied into the car like that, you're expending energy holding yourself in place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's taking and that's not only taxing you physically, but that's also diverting your attention, your concentration. And when you have turns coming at you every 2 seconds, you need every bit of concentration you can get.
Right. Yeah, no, it takes I bet when you get done, it's a physical, for both of you on the track when you get done, and I don't think people realize, that you reach those speeds, and a wreck is violent, right? I mean, you watch it on TV and you're like, well, they're not going that fast, right?
There's no crumple zone.
Yeah,
like there is nothing. It's all.
His car is all tube frame. There's nothing.
Put a Hans device on and hold your head on because. The first one I got into real bad, I hit a divider dead on. I tried to woe it down about 50, and my chin, put a dent in my chest that was black and blue for 2 weeks. And that's how a lot of people die is because the line separates. So after that, containment seat and full Hans device.
Remember Dale Sr.?
Yeah, exactly. That's why.
If you watch that race,
it was nothing.
That wreck really did not look that bad. I mean, he went and
No.
nose first in the wall, but it didn't look that bad, but it killed him.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's violent. I mean, that's one of those things. It's at those speeds, and especially when we talk about the,
And then consider, at least with me, I don't have a harness device. We're not required to wear because we're not running that kind of speeds. We're not running with other cars, but we do have to wear helmets.
Yeah.
So you got another 5 pounds on the top of your head.
Yeah.
And again, as I was saying, 1.2 Gs, and there was one summer before I got used to it. My neck hurt like crazy because I was going through turns, getting snapped back and forth, and with all that force, and just muscles just hurt all the time.
Yeah, you're not doing it very often, and so you're deploying these muscles that that you don't use very often in that way, right? And so
eventually you get used to it.
Right.
And even when I was karting, we'd have a sling that went over your two shoulders, and it would connect to your helmet, so you didn't have that fatigue after 25, 35 road course laps, because that's a lot on your head.
I might get a little claustrophobic in that setup, to be honest with you, where you just can't move. I mean, those guys that race Indy and all that other, the stock car stuff, the NASCAR, they are like, I mean, all they can do is like move their arms like this. The rest of them is like locked in that vehicle. The head can barely move, the arms, enough to move that steering wheel. But that's a,
Of course, the thing is, they set up the steering wheel where they don't have to turn it a lot.
Right.
And you look at Formula One, they do about a quarter turn. That's all they need to do that make go from half a turn to go lock to lock on a Formula One car.
Yeah. No, it's pretty amazing, and there's a lot of tech that goes into that as well. I hope. Let me wrap this part up. We've used our allotted time here at this point. We plenty of things to talk about. We'll have to have you back, and that way I can.
I told you get Metalheads talking. We can just keep going.
I'll have to do another show with you so I can get your last name right. Get that. I'm such a jack.
You got it right the last time.
I know. You know what? When we first started the program, I said it and I thought, did I mispronounce that? So I went back and looked on Google and I even wrote it down. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this right. And I must have wrote it down wrong. I'm like, so I'm all proud of myself. I'm like, I'm going to get this right. I'm going to get it right. And then you're like, no, you're not getting it right, jackass. So it's like, I'm like, but go figure. It's all right. I appreciate you being patient with me. Next time, just tell me the first time so that I don't go through the whole show mispronouncing it. I'm like, who is this guy? Well, we will tell folks listening. We'll hang around. If you're listening live, we'll hang around for a little bit of the post show, and we'll talk a little bit more of this stuff. And of course, you only get the post show if you come around for the live show. So if you're just catching this podcast, we are live Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out at theaverageguy.tv. And we've changed up the format a little bit. I'm getting some different tech in here, so it's just not your typical computer, phone, tech show. I got a little tired of talking about that all the time, and so we've kind of branched out a little bit. Last week we did some cooking tech, and that was pretty cool. I enjoyed doing that one with Ryan Parker. And we've got some stuff coming up in 2 weeks. John Nye, a guy I met a couple weeks ago at a conference, we're going to talk about ethical hacking, which would be pretty cool. I haven't gone down that path in the tech world, and so not really home gadget geeks, but I'll weave it in somehow. So I run the show. I can do whatever I want. So we'll have John Nye on as well, and I'm looking forward to that interview. And I'll remind you, thanks for supporting the Average Guy Tech Scholarship Fund. And so every time you purchase from Amazon, if you go out to theaverageguy.tv/Amazon, Lapta had said earlier in chat he'd use that, and indeed he had. Super easy to do. Some of you have even set up automatic links in your browser so that when you click on it, it automatically goes to it. We roll those dollars into giveaway stuff folks are going to test, and we have a couple of those coming up here in the next couple weeks, as soon as guys get those done, written, and posted to the site. But a great way for me, I hate begging vendors for stuff, so it's a great way for me to get stuff out to you. You just need to let me know, Jim at theaverageguy.tv, if you want to try something out. We'll buy it and ship it to you, and then you can try it, test it, write it, and Bill, you did that for us, right? Back with was it the RAV? Was it the RAV power one? Yeah.
I think I have it here.
How's that working? How's that working for you? Still?
It still works fine. Yeah, right here.
Very cool. Yeah, there it is. We actually sold. It's really funny. I had a guy. So after you reviewed it, not long after you reviewed it, I had a guy from Southern California leave a message on my Audio Boo. We also provide the podcast over at Spreaker and Podomatic and Audio Boo. And he said, he was like, hey, I'm looking for a device, and he said exactly what that device does. And I'm like, oh, hey, we just put a review up for it, so take a peek. And he tried it, and I haven't heard back from him since. He said it was okay when he first got it. So if you were that person, send me a note. Love to hear about it. We always like to know what's going on with the stuff that you buy through the link, or any new tech that you might have. If you bought something and you want to talk about it, drop it on our Facebook group. That's real easy, facebook.com/groups/ I think it's the average guy. I almost said call the coach. I say that so much for Gallup that my podcast worlds are colliding. We'll be back here next Thursday, so thanks for doing the Amazon stuff. We'll be back here next Thursday, I hope. I don't have a guest yet, so I'll have to dig that up. I was looking at the schedule this week. I'm like, oh, crap, I gotta slot somebody in. Maybe I can get the Australian guys in. We can do a full Australian. We'll get Rennie and Andrew back and talk about phrases that are only used in Australia. That seems to be the theme over the last couple of weeks. We're hearing a lot of these Australian phrases, and so maybe we'll just do an all Australian show and see what we can. We haven't heard from Rennie in a while. Hey, Rennie, you're out in chat. So let me know if the next week would work for you. Bill, thanks for coming in and joining us today. Bill Rockhold, thank you for the show notes. We'll drop those in if you want to link to. And Bill actually's got some links in there as well, and we didn't go right to the links. And so if you want more information on what he was talking about, we'll provide those links in the show notes as well. So thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
We'll be back next Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, averageguytv/live. Good night, everybody.
Good night.